when we look at Jordan Love in 2024, in my mind, I had an expectation that we would see him really reach that next level and potentially solidify himself as a top 5 quarterback in 2024. And he definitely did not do that. He didn't really take a massive dip down in play. I'd say he was pretty similar overall in his level of play, just when you compare his statistics. Year one, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks, 96.1 passer rating. 2024, 25 touchdowns, 11 picks, 96.7 rating. So a slightly better passer rating. But I think if we would not have seen Jordan Love get injured with his MCL sprain to start the season and then the groin injury, I do think we would have seen a even bigger leap in 2024. And so that's one reason why I really think 2025, if Jordan Love can stay healthy, we're going to see him take his game to another level. And there's a few different stats that I was looking up earlier today. And first off, Jordan Love, I think he's a very good scrambler. He's really good when it comes to running the ball. Now, that's not something that he's necessarily focused on in the same way, or the Packers have utilized him in that way as let's say, like the Ravens or a few other teams who like to run the quarterback more, like Lamar Jackson, guys like that. In his rookie season, or his first year starting, he had 50 attempts for 247 yards, 4 touchdowns, 16 first downs, running the ball. And you compare that to 2024, it cut in half, basically. He went from 50 attempts in 2023 to just 25 attempts in 2024. He did play in 2 less games, but still, it's a massive difference. He had 83 rush yards compared to the 247 the year prior. He had 1 touchdown compared to the 4 the year prior. And he had 83 rush yards compared to the 247 the year before. And he had 9 first downs rushing versus 16 the year before. And so Jordan Love was not running the ball as frequently as he was in 2023. And that's not surprising considering he was struggling with lower body injuries. So, of course, when you're struggling with these lower body injuries, you're not going to want to run the ball as frequently. And I think that's a wise decision. When you're dealing with a groin injury, I would say it's not to be advised to start running around. I think that Love was playing through the groin injury and he was willing to, stick it out and not be fully 100% playing a lot of those games. And because he's such a good quarterback, I think that you're better off with a slightly injured Jordan Love than potentially Malik Willis. Now, maybe there's a couple games. I remember the one where it was either the game he initially hurt his groin or the next game. I remember tweeting something out like maybe Malik Willis will be better right now just because of how much Love is limping currently. So there is a limit, of course, but Love was really good even though he dealt with this groin injury. And so that's why in my mind, when I think about 2025 and looking at those stats, if he stays healthy, I see no reason why he won't be scrambling at a much higher rate, closer to what we saw in his first year starting. I always mix it up, of course, because he had 3 years sitting before actually starting. So that's one reason I think he could take a big leap, is just scrambling. And the thing is, it's not like Jordan Love was struggling when it came to evading sacks, getting out of the pocket. He was still doing it at one of the highest levels in the NFL. If we look at pressure to sack ratio, this is a stat from Fantasy Points Data. They have a lot of good information there. But pressure to sack ratio is defined as the percentage of pressured dropbacks that results in a sack. So when he gets pressured, what percentage of those pressured dropbacks is Jordan Love sacked? And he was second best in the NFL at 9.7%. The only quarterback ahead of him was Josh Allen. So even with multiple lower body injuries, Jordan Love was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at evading pressure. And so that just excites me thinking about 2025. It's like if Jordan Love is doing that on a bad leg, what's he going to do if he, stays fully healthy? So that's one area where I think he could get even better. And it's not like the Packers offensive line was bad last year. They definitely were not. I think they were a top 10 unit. I know for like pressure percentage allowed, they're around 10th or so. So a lot of that has to do with Love just being really good at evading these sacks. So those are 2 areas. And I want to take a look here at a quote from Matt LaFleur talking about Jordan Love and these injuries. And this is from an article by Tom Silverstein of PackersNews.com. And here we have from the article, LaFleur didn't speak to how much different Love's game was last year, but he did say Love never lost the knack for avoiding sacks. I was looking at the number of sacks guys take, LaFleur said, and he has a good feel in the pocket and understands when he needs to use his legs to try to manipulate the pocket or there's nowhere to go. Oh, shoot, where's my check down? So I think he's done that over the course of 2 years. done a pretty good job with that, whether he's got his legs or not. I think usually you can move a little bit better if you don't have a knee or groin, LaFleur said in his pre-practice news conference July 27th, alluding to the injuries Love had last season. I think he's been looking good, and that's part of playing that position. And I feel like last year when Love was dealing with these injuries, he's never one to, make excuses. And that's where sometimes it's hard to really know how much an injury is affecting a player, just because if a guy comes out and says, yeah, I didn't play good because, my groin was injured, then of course people will come in and say, oh, look, he's just making excuses. So that's where I think sometimes we don't exactly know the extent of, how serious some of these injuries are. But I remember watching one interview, can't remember when it was or where it was, but it was with Jordan Love, and he was talking about these injuries, and clearly they impacted him in some degree. It's not like they were meaningless injuries. These were injuries that did impact the way that he played. And then a couple other interesting stats here for Love. So there's a great guy to follow on Twitter. He talks about fantasy football, but his name is Ryan Heath, and here's a tweet from him on Twitter. So he says, most catchable air yards per game at Fantasy Points data. You see there, Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love pre-groin injury, 188.5 per game. So second in the NFL in most catchable air yards per game. And then post-groin injury, the Packers were all the way at 26. Packers with Love post-groin injury, 137.1 catchable air yards per game. And so it makes you wonder, if Jordan Love stays healthy, if what was happening before his groin injury happens this next season, I mean, the Packers' passing attack is going to be very, very good. And so it does make you wonder, how much that passing attack suffered just because of the Packers sort of dialing things back a little bit because Love was not able to operate at his fullest capacity. And then one final thing here from Ryan Heath. He says across Love's 5 starts before the groin injury, he averaged 35.8 pass attempts per game, which would rank 4th among the QBs, and a 16.5% deep throw rate, QB2. So the Packers, even though they finished the year as one of the lowest teams when you look at just like the pass rate, they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the league. Early on, before the groin injury, they were passing at a much higher rate. So it makes you wonder if Love is healthy, maybe they'll get back to potentially, passing the ball a lot more, and that's one point Ryan Heath had made. So very interesting information there, and it makes you wonder if, just how much that groin injury impacted the Packers' game planning, which obviously it impacted it to some degree. And so that's why I just think overall, when I'm like really assessing Jordan Love and what I think he could be in 2025, if his health is there, I do think we'll see his play at another level. And I think for me, the biggest thing is consistency and also, playoff. You're being consistent, especially in the playoffs, which obviously you need if you want to actually have a chance at winning a Super Bowl. And so that's where I feel like we're going to see Love take some strides forward. The big thing for me still is, can he consistently make the right decisions? Because we know that sometimes he can just make throw a really bad ball at a bad, inopportune time. And so he needs to clean that up. But I think he should be better if he has both legs under him this year. But that is it for this video. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any Packers news. You can follow me on Twitter/X at LukeBeller3 for other Packers content. And sometimes I'll share the news out there first or retweet certain reporters there first if you want to get even quicker updates. But that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.